This is the unfiltered feed. The unfiltered feed.
Hello guys and welcome to yet another preview, and today we have got the Mumbai Indians, possibly one of the most decorated franchises in the history of IPL, and we've got a super fan as well who will not keep aside his bias, because even if you keep aside the bias, this team is too good to not be complimenting. So let us straight away dive into it. And before we talk about this season, let us talk about the last season. They finished as the third best side of the season, losing in the qualifier 2 to Punjab Kings. But do you think they would consider it to be a successful campaign, or would they be expecting a bit more from this team?
I think as a Mumbai Indians fan, I wasn't very happy with the way last year went. Purely because some of the wins that they got, I think were a bit, it didn't represent the actual potential of the side. Because if you remember, they played 2 matches against SRH, they played 2 matches against CSK, and if I'm not wrong, they played 2 matches against RR as well. And those teams were not doing so well last time. And they were pretty easy victories for MI. And then they also beat Lucknow, who were not doing that well. So most of their wins came against teams that were placed below them in the league, in the points table. But whenever they played RCB, Punjab and Gujarat, at least in the league stage, they didn't win a single match. And these 3 teams finished above them. Luckily, they beat Gujarat in the eliminator, but against Punjab in the qualifier, they were again exposed and they lost. So I think as a I would say strong MI fan, I wouldn't be very happy, but the team did well.
Yeah, if you remember in 2021, they had a similar story where they couldn't defeat the teams above them and defeated all of them below them and ended up just missing on the playoffs. I think it was a similar story. They were the best from the rest. That's what I would say. I think what concerned me the most was this was the first time where you had a full strength MI team full of superstars, and yet they didn't look like they would go on to win the title. If you remember, they have had quite a few good teams and they have done well. But after 2020, I would say, though they haven't won the trophy in 21 as well, they were still a good side. But in 22, I think they were a bit weakened and they were rebuilding. And 23, they didn't have Bumrah, so it is understandable. They still made the playoffs. 24, though they had a great team, one of the best, they had a few disputes with change in leadership and all of that. So again, it can be excused. But in 2025, you had a fairly united team and you had all of the resources available, and yet they didn't look like they would go on to win the title. So that is what would concern me the most. And looking on, I think they have made a few upgrades. Do you think they really needed another wicket keeper in Quinton de Kock when they have literally the future of Quinton de Kock already with them? They have gone back to Quinton. So do you think they wasted an overseas spot over there, or is it valid?
First of all, they bought him for 1 crore or 2 crores, I'm not sure, but they bought him for base price. And with the kind of form de Kock is in right now, I think it makes a lot of sense. But to be honest, I don't think they really needed any other overseas options. Maybe you could have said in the fast bowling department, but before the auction they had already secured Shardul Thakur, who's a decent Indian pacer. So I don't think they really saw the need of playing 2 pacers, 2 overseas pacers alongside Jasprit Bumrah, which is why they went for de Kock. And for the price, I think he's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, so they've got quite a good variety of batters. We usually talk about variety in terms of bowlers, but I would say that this team has got a lot of variety in batting as well. You've got Rohit Sharma, of course, fitter than ever, and hopefully he will turn up this time. And Quinton de Kock is what we are predicting will start ahead of Ryan Rickelton. So he's again, if you remember, in their peak years, he used to be a bank and kind of give you those anchor knocks at least once every 3 games. So he's back with them, and you've got Surya and Tilak and Hardik. So that's literally the middle order from the Indian team right now, which is one of the best. I would say the entire top 5 is the best in this league, and by a fair margin, because there are no fringe players at all over there. All of them are established, and I think some of the best in the world. And then you've got Will Jacks at number 6 and Naman Dheer at number 7 as your finishers, and also Hardik Pandya as the finisher. So I mean, I can't believe that they have managed to assemble such a super team, and all of them look to be in a decent form. Surya Kumar is a bit debatable, but Tilak Verma has also picked up form at the right time. So, what is the limit for this team? This is just a limitless batting unit.
Yeah, and this is only the ones you've mentioned are in the playing 12. If you look, you've got Shofin Rutherford, who's sitting outside, who was also a beast, and you've got Ryan Rickelton at the top. So those two are also, I would say they would be in the playing 12 if they were in any other side. I think this year what's good is every single player in this playing 12 has got some experience playing in that particular role. What they lacked last year was players like Will Jacks weren't very suitable playing at the bottom of the batting order. So Will Jacks was forced to play at number 3. I think he also opened in one game, if I'm not wrong. And because of that, players like Surya Kumar, Tilak, Hardik were all forced to bat one position down. And they didn't have a lot of experience, especially Tilak Verma. He wasn't really used to finishing games. But this year, for the Indian team, he's been doing that. So he's got some experience there. And he will be most likely playing at number 4 or number 5 in the worst case, which is more closer to his natural batting order. So with all that, I think this batting looks a bit more set, and all the players have some clarity about their roles. So compared to last year, I think they should gel well and perform better.
Yeah, definitely. That is for sure. And I think we didn't even talk about someone like a Mitchell Santner, who's been in some of his best batting form ever.
Yeah.
So this batting just does not end, and the only way I can see for teams to kind of control this batting is get rid of Rohit early on, and then hope that Surya or Tilak, one of them, has their bad days where they just get stuck in and can't really accelerate, and maybe that would get the rest of the batters to play their shots and throw their wickets away, and all of that complex issues later you can actually contain this team. So very, very dangerous signs for the rest of the teams, and I think MI looks all set, at least on the batting front. But you can't give a perfect pass to even the best in the world, and the problem here starts with their bowling, and not necessarily the start with their bowling, because they've got Trent Bolt and Deepak Chahar with the new ball, and if things go wrong, you've got the best bowler in the world again, this time Jasprit Bumrah. So I think they've got most bases covered in terms of fast bowling, because you've also got Hardik Pandya, who is pretty much an all-phase bowler in the recent past for India. He's done really well, and he's the captain this time, so he knows if he needs to bowl, he doesn't have to ask someone else, and he can come in and deliver. So that is something he will take the entire liberty out of. And you've also got the spin in Will Jacks and Mitch Santner, so they do in some ways carry that 12th player, because Mayank Markande, you've got options of Atharva Ankolekar and Raghu Sharma as the Indian spinner. So I think even without that role being filled with a lot of quality, you still have got a decent bowling attack.
Yeah, I think the only issue with them, which I don't think they've improved from last year, is that all these players are quite one-dimensional. Other than Jasprit Bumrah, none of their bowlers have pure pace with which they can scare or bounce out opposition batters. If you look at players like Shardul, Deepak Chahar, Trent Bolt to an extent, and even Ashwini Kumar, all of them rely more on the pitch and maybe a bit of swing, but none of them are gun fast bowlers, so they lack on that. And then I think the good thing that they've done is they've got a bit more experience, because last year they relied a bit too much on players like Ashwini Kumar, and I think they also had Arjun Tendulkar, who I don't think they used, but apart from Bumrah and Trent Bolt and Deepak Chahar, who was injured towards the end, they didn't have a lot of experience. So with Shardul Thakur coming in, with Mayank Markande coming in, these players have played in the IPL before, and Mayank has also played for MI before, so it gives them a bit more experience, especially in pressure situations. So that should help a bit.
Yeah, and if you look at it, if you remove the 12th player for now, even in that starting 11, you've got 6 bowling options. So and 2 spinners. So I feel Will Jacks and the way he has developed his bowling in the past 12 months, that will be of a lot of use to MI, because it will help them kind of liberate the impact player, and I think they will have the opportunity to use the impact player in the most flexible way possible. They can either get in if they lack a bit of death bowling, maybe they've used an extra over of Bumrah up front and they need some death bowling, they can get in and impact sub specifically for that extra overs. Or if they think that they're lacking a bit of spin, Will Jacks is going for runs, then they can get in a spinner. So I think there are a lot of ways they can optimize their 11 by adding the 12th player in. So that is an advantage, and that is because of Will Jacks and the extra spin in the starting 11.
Yeah, I think after the auction, I saw a graphic where they showed the 2020 MI squad, which is considered to be the world's best T20 side at a given time, and then they showed this year's squad and the playing 12, and you can start seeing a lot of similarities, because you've got Rohit, De Kock, Surya Kumar, who are all in that side as well. You've got Tilak Verma, who plays in for Ishan Kishan. Then you've got Hardik, who was already in that side. Then you've got Mitchell Santner, who plays the role of Krunal Pandya. You've got Will Jacks, who plays the role of Pollard. Or you can say Will Jacks and Naman Dhir together play the role of Karan Pollard. Then you have Jasprit Bumrah and Trent Bolt, who are also in that side. And then you have Deepak Chahar, who plays the role of James Pattinson, if you remember him. And then Mayank Markande, who was, I think there was Rahul Chahar in that side and Mayank Markande here. So I think they have tried to go back to that old philosophy which worked for them, and they've focused on bringing a lot of experience. If you see, they don't have as many youngsters anymore in this side, because like Akash Ambani said last year, because the IPL auction or the mega auction happens every 3 years, there's no real benefit of bringing in young players and grooming them. So they've changed their philosophy, and I hope it pays off this time for them.
Yeah, it is a bit sad to see teams, not their fault, but teams kind of understanding that the IPL no longer values building talents, and they used to do that in the past, but they've realized that anyways they will build the player and they don't have full guarantee of him being retained by the team, so they've just stopped trying. And though it's a completely different debate, but IPL needs to rethink that. But coming back to your point of comparing them to 2020, do you feel that in 2020 the roles were a bit more clearly defined than they are here? Because if you look at it, there you had someone like a Krunal and Hardik who knew that their job was to finish, or in Krunal's case, more of a fail-safe batter. But and Pollard as well. You never saw them come in early and kind of build an innings. But here you've got Tilak Varma, who comes ahead, but also knows how to finish. So at sometimes he's used as a finisher, and even Namandhir, he is a designated finisher, but sometimes he too comes up at the top of the order. And of course Hardik Pandya, he's no longer the only finisher or finisher only that he was. He too likes to come up and take a few balls. So do you think this overlapping of skills has kind of damaged their, I would say,
Impact.
effectiveness as a entire team?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and it's really good that you brought that point up. I find this happening even in the Indian side, and I think that's exactly why it's also happening here, because most of these players also play for India. And I don't really agree with it because, like you said, giving the player a clear role is very important because they can then focus on performing and being the best at that. When you keep rotating players around, even though you're saying that it's for form or you want some match practice, I think it still kind of confuses the player a bit. And especially if the experiment doesn't work, then it's very difficult to go back to the original role. So I think they should really focus on fixing a batting order and then sticking to that. Even if you're winning the match easily, you shouldn't really promote someone like a Hardik ahead of Tilak. It's rather better that Tilak goes out and still plays his natural game because you'll never always be in easy situations. And when you're in a tough situation, it's always good if the player has been in that situation before. So I agree with you, and they should stop this, not just at IPL level, but also for India, because in the long term, I believe this will not work. Right now, India is the best side by a mile, which is why they're winning. But let's say if an Australia or England gets competitive, I think this role of or this strategy of moving your players around will not really serve us well.
Yeah, and that is what they need to realize here, because if you see, as you mentioned, the gap between India and other international teams is a lot, but not necessarily the same case would be in the IPL. On days where your strategy gets messed up a bit, teams will know how to take advantage of that and they might get the better of you. So I feel that is something they need to look at in this team, and otherwise I don't see many troubles for them this time around. Of course, last year they had a pretty similar composition, and it came down to the end for them to I think they qualified, but they were never in the contention for top 2 after they were defeated by the Punjab Kings late in the league, and even the Gujarat Titans in that final over at Wankhede. So that is something they need to work on, because if you are going to win the trophy, you need to beat the best teams, and that is something they couldn't do last year. And again, just to touch on the 12th player here, the Indian spinner, do you think they might think of getting rid of an extra foreigner up top and play someone like Allah Ghazanfar or maybe Corbin Bosch at the end of the season? Do you think they will try and change this team structure and get someone else as the foreigner?
I'm not really sure if they will look to bring in an extra foreign bowler because they have decent experience when it comes to pacers at least, and with spinners as well. You have Mitchell Santner, who's I think the best, one of the best in the world. Plus, given the fact that in IPL we are going to see less spin-friendly tracks, but obviously as the tournament enters its second month, you will see slower pitches. And I think for those pitches, Mitchell Santner and Will Jack should be more than enough. In fact, I was actually considering even dropping Mitchell Santner at the start of the tournament and bringing in Shofin Rutherford just to extend that batting even more. So they may actually do that, and then towards the end bring Mitchell Santner back in. I think we saw that happen last time where they were playing a must-win match against Delhi, and that's when Mitchell Santner proved his value. And even on a slow or even on a track at Wankhede, he did pick 4 wickets. So he can be important in the latter part of the season.
Yeah. So I think they will start with this overseas composition, which is an opener at the top, Will Jack, Smith Santner, and Trent Bolt. So they've got quite a few quality backups, which is good to have.
Yeah, I don't think you will see Mitch Santner playing all the games at the start, because even in the last season they played Corbin Bosch instead of him in the middle part of the season. But once the pitches get slower, and or if they're playing in a spin friendly wicket, then you'll see Mitch Santner coming.
Yeah. So there are quite a few ways in which they can uh, tinker with their structure, which I would kind of say they didn't have the luxury of last time around. They didn't have someone like a Rutherford. Allah Ghazanfar was replaced by Mujib, who, let's be fair, isn't the best of options to have. And
Yeah.
Corbin Bosch too wasn't at that level. He did do well for them, but he's an even improved cricketer coming into this season. So that's
Yeah.
another positive. So a lot of good things with this team, and the only real thing that I would like to see, and as we talk about all the time, arcs to watch out for. We did touch on the roles that they give to someone like a Tilak Varma and Will Jacks. Will Jacks' role has been defined by the England team as a finisher, but you never know what MI think of it, and maybe they believe that if he's in good form, then maybe get him at the top, which we don't like, but you never know. And one thing that we didn't talk much about, but it is going to be a big factor, and that is Rohit Sharma, because I don't even remember the last time he has had a useful impact on MI's season in any way. The 2 times he did do well in the last 6 or 7 years, they didn't win the title, and in 2021 they didn't even qualify. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this newer and fitter version of Rohit Sharma does in IPL cricket.
Yeah, I agree. I think last year he had a terrible start to the tournament because I think he got out for a duck, and then he had this trend where he was always scoring a few more runs than the previous innings. But then I think he came off pretty well against the likes of CSK, SRH, and even in the qualifier or the eliminator he scored a match-winning 80. So he played well in a few innings here and there. But I hope now that he doesn't play any international cricket, or he doesn't play any international T20 cricket, and that he is not the captain anymore, I hope he gets the freedom to just go out and express himself. And especially looking at the batting that's to follow, there's no point for him to play slow and consolidate. He should just go for it, take some inspiration from the other Sharma in the Indian side, and just go for sixes and fours and score a quick fire 30-35, and you can then just start taking a lot of risks.
Yeah, so he will be on the radar of a lot of fans. And I think just to finish off, Deepak Chahar, we haven't talked much about him. He has hardly played cricket in between the 2 seasons. He did play a bit of Vijay Hazare Trophy, if I'm not wrong, in Jan. But uh, again, he is kind of been disappointing over the years. Whenever you feel that he's ready for uh, progressing to the next level, and maybe at one point he also had test ambitions, but clearly his body is not that sustainable for him. So I think he does get the new ball, but if you remember last time, he towards the end he was dropped, if I'm not wrong. So clearly they don't see him as a lock-in, and that is why they've gone with someone like a Shardul Thakur to kind of have a backup for Deepak Chahar mainly.
Yeah.
So do you think Deepak Chahar, his value is there in this team, because you've got Trent Bolt and Hardik Pandya who can bowl with the new ball, and of course Jasprit Bumrah can always take the new ball. So do you think Deepak Chahar will start, and at what point do they realize that he's not doing well and maybe replace him?
I think with Deepak Chahar, the issue is they always try to experiment with him in the death. This was something that even MS Dhoni mentioned when he was playing for CSK. That was more on Deepak Chahar. But last year, I remember when they bought him, they kept mentioning that he's also a good death bowler and he has that experience. And then clearly it didn't work out. So I think the matches that he did well was when he bowled 3 in the power play, just got over with it because he was quite economical in the power play and he took quite a few early wickets for them. But the moment you start bringing him in the middle overs or even in the death, then he becomes fairly, I would say, clueless because he doesn't have the pace, he doesn't get the swing, and then his variations are not good enough for modern T20 cricket. So I think if they really want to play him, they should look at him as a power play over, give him 3 overs, power play bowler, sorry, give him 3 overs in the power play, and then leave 1 over if required, because you have other alternatives like an Ashwini Kumar, or you could bring Shardul Thakur as the impact player for middle overs, and then reserve the death overs for a Bolt and Bumrah. So this is similar to the batting saga where they just keep experimenting with a lot of things. They should just reserve Deepak Chahar for the power play and reserve Bumrah and Bolt for the death. They shouldn't try and experiment because once Deepak Chahar gets hit, I think he loses a lot of confidence and then it takes him in a negative spiral. So just ask him to focus on his strengths and not really experiment much.
Yeah, so it all boils down to role clarity yet again.
Yeah.
And I hope they've learned from last time because this team clearly has it all to go on and win the title, and that too quite comfortably. And yet they do these stupid things in between, which kind of makes no sense. I remember them sending Will Jacks at the top, as you mentioned, and then I think once you had Tilak Varma against Lucknow, he couldn't hit the ball for quite a while, and then they retired him out. And then next game he was down at number 6 or 7. So it's constant chopping and changing. I hope they don't do it this time around, and I see this team going a long way in this tournament. So let us predict for them. So these are our predictions so far from all the previews that we have done. And I would say Mumbai Indians will go at number 2 for me.
That's exactly what I was also going to say. So I'm going to place them at number 2. I think this is the top 2 team. The only other side that I think can match them is RCB, but because of their availability and injury concerns, they may not be able to do so. And I'm placing them in number 2 because whenever they have done that, that's actually a CSK thing. So I'll actually place them in at the top because I think this is the best side. Will they play like the best side? I'm not sure.
That's I shouldn't be surprised, but still I am. We've gone P1 for them. I think this is shaping up to be a good prediction table and we've got 6 more teams to go. There are a few more good teams to come. So until they come, we will go, and until next time, trophy आला रे.
स्टेडियम में शोर है, एनर्जी ऑन द फ्लोर है. This is the unfiltered feed. The unfiltered feed.